Ladies and gentlemen, this name mixed with this name, well, I haven't seen the two of these together in many, many years. And methinks this is something, well, frankly, I have never seen on a vehicle like this. Of course, I'm talking about the Honda Prelude, and we just happen to have a collection here, starting with the very first generation, which brought Honda GT Touring to the United States. And then, of course, this one, which brought up pop-up headlights and a larger, more comfortable interior, better power too. Then my favorite, this one is the third generation, which has a mechanical all-wheel steering system, sleeker looks. Then you guys know these models. This one here, well, this is a 1993, fourth generation, and this one has electronic all-wheel steering as an option, manual transmission, automatic transmission, four-cylinder power in the front wheels, really good power, excellent handling, and the design was completely different than everything else, partially because they got rid of the pop-up headlights, which is a crime, but I'm gonna let Honda off. And the reason why is because the fifth generation, which is right here, in my mind is beautiful. I love looking at this car. They did a wonderful job with the overall design of what was the final Honda Prelude. Now this is a 1999 model. And the thing about it was, it introduced VTEC power in the Prelude. And it brought it in such a way that was interesting because the engine was actually kind of so big, right? They actually had to tip it back in order to keep the low profile of the hood. And this is not the first time they've done that, but in this particular case, in order to keep this sleek design, that's what they had to do. In addition, this thing had like 200 horsepower. It had some serious cojones. But the thing was, the world changed, and this vehicle, unfortunately, kind of faded away. Now, as you guys know, Honda did make the Accord Coupe and other types of vehicles that kind of filled the void, but there was something missing. And then Honda said to themselves, we need to fix that. And this is exactly what they did. In 2026, you'll be seeing the all-new Honda Prelude. And I gotta tell you guys, in person, yes, good-looking vehicle. What you're about to see, you've actually seen before. And that's because this is basically the same powertrain out of the Civic Hybrid. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this puts out 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque, and that's combined. Now bear in mind, this is a two-motor hybrid system. So essentially it drives around a lot like an electric car in your regular day-to-day. And then as you're speeding along the highway, you get that engine to kick in and it goes directly into driving the vehicle with the help of the electric motors. So it's the best of both worlds. And when you're going sporty, you got the gas engine and you have the electric motors kicking in to give you the most power, which should be awesome because we've already driven the Civic Hybrid and it is actually a very powerful little car. This should be lighter. It is a smaller vehicle, meaning potentially could be higher performing.
We've used the Fantic X8 Apex tire inflator for years to keep tires inflated on our personal and company cars. The Fantic is super easy to use. You simply hook it up to the wheel that needs air, you set your desired PSI, you push the start button, and then you let it do the rest. And what's great about this is it will stop when it's at the exact right tire pressure. And you don't have to just use this for tires, it also works on balls such as volleyballs, basketballs, any kind of sports equipment. This is gonna be your best friend. And best of all, folks, they are running a crazy deal right now through the Fantic Amazon store. You have to use promo code TFL X8 Apex and you can get this bad boy for just $59. Be sure to use the link below to find this product.
Prelude. The new one. Wow, such a different look, but if you look very carefully, you can actually see hints of what they initially started with from the very beginning. For instance, exposed headlights, and check out the way they're designed with this really cool uplifting, zoomy LED right there. That is cool, but then you have the second part, which is very Honda-like, this particular grille section, and it looks like there's a little bit of an opening for cooling. Speaking of cooling, down here, you can definitely see they have an opening. And then you might be wondering about this blue stripe and why it's not the same blue as this blue. And that's because this indicates hybrid. That means that all these Preludes are going to have the same blue stripe, telling everybody, hey, Get out of my way, I hug trees, yo. But more importantly, the lower section here is aerodynamic, and in a minute I'm going to show you a slightly different setup that they have available for this car. But final important part comes right here on the hood, and that's this character line, because it goes along the hood and gives it a nice dip and this nice angle here. And the reason why I like that so much is because it seems to help accentuate the front end. Look at how the fenders stand out. It definitely gives it a Coke bottle shape when you compare it to the rear. Up here, very important thing, because these black wheels come standard, right? But you can upgrade to a higher end wheel. Now these are 19-inch wheels, and these tires are 235/40 ZR19s. These are extreme contacts from Continental. These are your next level performance tire because it comes standard with all season tires. Now, a big hint about what's underneath this vehicle that makes it very special starts right here and talks about this. So what does this mean and this mean? Well, this is aluminum and it's 4-piston and it's a Brembo brake. And inside this vehicle, lots of components, including this, coming directly from the Civic Type R. Let's talk about that vent because it's actually functional. It channels air coming from the back of the tire out to this side sill. Now the side sill is very interesting. If you look at the side of this vehicle, you're going to see a cut that you've never seen on a Honda before. The way they bring in with this door, and the section goes in and then pushes back out, leading up to yet another wide looking fender. Once again, that Coke bottle shape I was talking about, it's right there. But there's more, because right here, it's the first time that Honda's done this with flush door handles. Now, if you're in proximity of the vehicle, which I happen to be, and if you have the remote, which I happen to have, and you unlock it, boop, boop. So if you get close to it, it'll do it, or you can fire it away whenever you need to, and boop, boop, you're done. Just that simple. Let's go to the back. One more thing I wanted to show you, and it's an interesting question I want to pose to Honda, and that's this. What would be there is simply a gas filler. No plug or anything else in there for a PHEV system. I wonder if that's something that is in this vehicle's future. Now let's talk about the back. As you may or may not know about me, I am a nut when it comes to the back of vehicles. I love rear design. So this has an amazing rear design. I'm just gonna say it. I know you guys are like, oh, Honda told you to say it. No, 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 it's really cool because it reminds me a lot of Porsche, and at the same time, there is some Prelude feel back here, not to mention the fact they brought back the old script, and then they got the cool Honda separated title going on right up top. I love that. But what's really interesting about this car, aside from the fact that it has this giant black section here with some lower aero, no exhaust in the back hanging out, sorry to say, but you know, it's a hybrid, guys. What are you expecting, right? So there's something else though that this car is hiding that I'm going to show you on the white car. Why? Because it's really big. I shall insert my hand here. What? That's right. This is a lift back. I was gonna say hatchback, but Honda will throw things at me. No, it's a lift back. And check this out. Look how much space is in here. Now I threw some golf clubs in here and an overnight bag for Roman. And the thing is, this whole setup here is built for 2+2 seating. And yes, later on, you're gonna see the fat guy get into the back of the vehicle. But for now, I wanted just to show you how much room is back here. And the thing is, if you look at the older Preludes, they all had little trunk, because they're coupes and not a liftback. As such, not as utilitarian. So this gives you a lot more space in a very tidy package. Now the Prelude only comes in one trim. However, you can upgrade with extras, and that's including things like a spoiler, right? But in addition, you can get a blacked out roof. If you look at this roof here, this is white, but it would be only available on the white model, and you can get the black roof. Also, down there, you have the upgraded wheels. They're 19-inch as well. So you also have that special rubber for performance. But there's more performance. Also those mirrors right there, can't forget those, because that is part of the options. And then up front, there is an additional diffuser, as you can see right there, underneath the main spoiler. Now it is a coupe, but it's surprisingly easy for me to get into. Part of that has to do with the fact that the sills are very low. It's one of the attributes to having all front-wheel drive vehicle. Now, let's talk about what we got in here, because we have a 10.2-inch screen here and a 9-inch screen there, and I'm going to hit this button here. They're actually letting me, boop, boop, fire it up. Bang. Now, you know, I just made a funny noise to simulate an engine note. But what if you could do that? Not only that, but what if you could drive a CVT? Well, it's not really a CVT, but a vehicle that feels like a CVT, but make it feel like you're driving a vehicle that has paddle shifters hooked up to, say, a twin clutch gearbox. You can kind of do that. And that's thanks to this button right here, Sport Plus. So if you look at this screen here, I'm going to hit the button, blip, blip, and you'll see that S Plus down there. Now what this has done is it's put it into its sportiest mode, meaning that the gas engine's on, electric motors are on, it's ready to go, and it's going to give you a lot of performance. But here's the deal about that. Now we're inside an enclosed space, so I need to shut this down so we don't asphyxiate. So the deal is, when you have that on, you're going to be getting a feeling of going through the gears, right? But in addition, you're going to have sound coming into the cockpit. Now I know a lot of you guys are like, okay, it's all fake. Yes. But Hyundai does it with the Ioniq 5N, and it's a blast. If Honda can pull this off, it would be fantastic if it's as much fun. Now, real quickly, let's talk about what's inside here. This is all standard Honda fare. Look, I'm not a big fan of push buttons, but at least it has some paddle shifters, right? So you have your standard push button transmission here. Here's where you select your drive modes, and then your parking brake. Over here, you have wireless charging, 2 USB-C ports, of course your little DC right there, and then standard air conditioning controls. They've had this for years. I'm actually really fond of this because they're actual buttons that you're pushing, and then there's little screens in here, which actually I can show you. I think that it won't shut. Yeah, the engine's not on. Okay, so there you go. So you can see clearly what you got going on over here. And this is all standard, by the way. So this car, once again, only comes in one trim, this trim, right? But because it is a hybrid, it gives you many, many options in terms of how you can drive the car. So other than the higher sporting ones, and here's that drive mode, and so this is GT. GT mode is your normal mode, basically, okay? This is your compromise between sport and what we would call comfort, okay? Comfort changes everything. And we're going to talk about the suspension in a minute because that's one of the main things it does change. But it also changes the algorithm in terms of power delivery, making everything smoother and keeping the car quiet. It'll drive more like an EV, okay? So you'll mostly not hear the gas engine in comfort mode. GT mode, once again, is the compromise in between. And then, of course, you've got comfort, GT, and sport. But there's one more, and that is individual. So, for instance, you can change around the way you have the acceleration feel and change the way the suspension is set up to your liking. If that's the way you want to drive the car all the time, you can do that. And a couple other things. Let me shut this off so it's not yelling at me. This vehicle is very similar in terms of layout to the Civic. Even some of the vents are very similar. Not exactly the same, but similar. And this is suede-like material that you have here. There are two different interior colors. There's a black, and then you have this one, which is the white and blue. Now, if you look very carefully at the seating pattern right here, and definitely on the seat back, this is a throwback to the earlier generations Prelude. They actually had a seat pattern that was very similar to this. Oh, and very important, these seats are bespoke to Prelude, so their overall design, shape, and look is specifically made for this car. Another thing to keep in mind is that you have a very soft material going over here, which is actually nice and premium. No storage down here, even though it feels like there could be, right? Let me open that glove compartment because you guys are dying to know. Yeah, not a very big glove compartment, frankly. And, well, finally, door controls, standard Honda fare. One important note, no sunroof. Now it's your favorite time in the video. It's time for the fat guy to get into the back of what is a relatively small back seat. So let me show you what you need to do in order to make that happen. Aside from losing a lot of weight to make it happen. I'm not doing that on camera. So there is a lever right here. See that? Push it up, seat folds forward. But it doesn't pull back. I've already tried messing with it and oops, that's not supposed to do that. That's for the seatbelt. Okay, so then what you have to do is reach over here, and that's where your sliding is. Da-da. And then the seat is all the way forward, which is the only way I can probably get into this. I have size 13 boots on, and I'm about 6'1", 265 pounds. I'm going to get into the back of this. Drum roll, ladies and gentlemen. That was my spine cracking. Oh, that girl's ahead. Oh, okay. And I got the boots back here. That felt great. And then I'm gonna pull the seat. And I fit with no problem, except we haven't shut the, oh boy. All right, here we go. Okay, producer Zach, go ahead and shut it. Okay, now you might want to come around to the front. And what you're going to notice is that I lack headroom. And I don't have a ton of leg room. This is a 2+2, meaning golf clubs are probably best back here, or children. But full-size adults or large adults, probably not so much. And I'm not exaggerating any of this. My shoulder is hitting this section here as I lean to make sure that my neck is slightly craned to the right. I've had worse, but honestly speaking, this is a little bit tight. If I were Tommy, who's like a grasshopper, I could easily lift my legs up over to my ears and fit a little bit better. Okay, just a little cross, a little double cross, a little bit of that, and I'm gonna get myself out with no problem. There we go. One boot out. Twisting. That was my spine again. Yep, okay. I am so glad I did not have that breakfast burrito today. That was really easy. If you're curious to where these will be built, it is in Japan in the same factory where they're building the Civic Type R. Now, I bet you're wondering about when you can buy these. Well, according to Honda, it's going to be late fall. But what about competition? Well, we are talking about the Subaru BRZ, the GR86 from Toyota, and of course, the Mazda MX-5 Miata. They technically are direct competitors to this vehicle, which makes sense. Now, in terms of pricing, we don't know, and that's also, we don't have the EPA numbers either. However, we can surmise that most likely it's going to be priced between the Honda Civic Hybrid and the Honda Civic R, somewhere in between those two. Seems to make sense. So we're curious to what you guys think. Let us know. I think this thing looks like $1 million, and I can't wait to drive it. I'm just hoping it drives as good as it looks. See you next time.